I'm Joanne Banko, author and educator at Let's Go Sew. Today I've got a virtual pillow parade for you today. I'm so excited to show you all different pillows, techniques, how to use some trims, and how to really make your pillows finish really, really well. You know, pillows, I think, are one of the greatest ways to update a room in a flash. As you can see, you can use whatever colors fit your decor. You can really try out a lot of fun techniques. In fact, it's a great way to practice things that you're just learning on your machine or some things you haven't done before, because what do you have to lose? A little square for a pillow, and you know, if it works out great, you can go ahead and put it together. If not, you can count it as a learning experience. So let's get started with some different ways to make your pillows really form nice when you're finished. A lot of times we are purchasing pillow forms. I know I do. It's quick, it's easy, it's a time saver. So when you buy a pillow form, you're going to see on the package the actual sizing. Let's say, for example, this is my 10-inch or 12-inch rather pillow form. So when I cut out my fabric to create this pillow, I will actually cut out my fabric to equal 12 inches. Now I need seam allowance, so that means when I finish this pillow, it's going to actually measure 1 inch smaller than my pillow form. I like that to create a real overstuffed look, so that works well. Another technique that you can use is to take and buy a pillow form that has a zipper, because in my opinion, almost every pillow form I've ever purchased, the corners just aren't quite fluffed out the way I like them. So if you buy the type that already has a zipper, you can get in there and add some stuffing. Now, how about stuffing? Well, there's a lot of them out on the market. I have my absolute favorite I want to share with you today. This particular type is actually labeled cluster stuffing. And what does that mean? Well, I won't open the package because we might have it flying all over the place. But cluster stuffing is very small pieces instead of having like a big lump that you're tearing and pulling at it. So when you fill your pillow with that, you can stuff it a little bit more or a little bit less. It just makes a really nice, smooth finish. So what if you want to make something and you want to fill that out a little bit more and you didn't quite get a pillow stuffed all the way? Well, an easy way to overcome that is to just add some batting. So you can wrap this around your pillow form. Let me just, it comes in different layers. This one's a little thinner, this one's a little thicker, and these are usually used for quilting, but we can wrap that around our pillow form, or even if need be, roll it up a little bit and just fit it into the corner areas. So if I were using this pillow form here for this pillow, it's not going to fit all the way. I would just roll up some of that batting and tuck it in. Okay, so that'll take care of that. Now, sometimes you're going to want to fluff out your fabric a little bit better or give it a little bit more body. So this is a great example of another item that I use, and that is Fusible Fleece. Let me grab this. And with this one, I'm going to just give you a peek at the inside here. Just tuck my hand in there a little bit, and you can see I've got a layer of fleece that I attached to the back of the fabric after I did all of the decorative work, all the trims, whatever, just to give that a little bit more body from the front side. It just kind of fills that out, gives it a nice fluffy texture. So that's my Fusible Fleece. You'll see in a minute I actually sometimes add it even when I'm going to do the trim. Now, another way to make your pillow forms fluff out nicely is when you cut your pillow. Slide this out of the way so you can make sure you can see this really good. When you cut your pillow pieces, often they're going to be, rectangular or square. You want to dull those corners a little bit. So what I do is I just use a washout marker and angle it a little bit, and I would trim away all 4 of those corners so we're slightly creating an angle on that pillow. When we stuff it, it's still going to look like a square pillow, but it's not going to have such sharp points. Okay? Well, what about trims? You see a whole lot of, embroidery can be trim, applique can be trim, or piping can be trim, ribbon can be trim. I want to show you some techniques for sewing that, but you can see that really kind of ties your color scheme together and adds a really, really great accent. So let's head over to the machine so I can show you some trim techniques. On the Storytime pillow that you saw, let me tell you why it's called Storytime. It's actually got a pocket on the back so you can put a book in it. So that's where that came from. But that one is trimmed just with simple rickrack, one of my favorite trims, comes in lots of colors. This jumbo size is a little wider than what we would consider standard. So what I like to do is use a 2mm twin needle and select a serpentine stitch. If you look at that Storytime pillow really close and you see that trim, you would see I've got a wavy stitch there, kind of mimics that. So that works really well for anchoring that down. I love to use ribbon. If I use wide ribbon, I'll just top stitch it on, but I want to show you a technique that I would use with a specialty foot that's normally designed for sewing on bias binding. So I'm going to snap this on. I've got my ribbon, I've got 3/8 inch wide ribbon already in there. That's snapped onto the machine. And I am going to just simply do like a crisscross fashion. So if you remember, I talked about that fusible fleece. I've added a little bit of body to this fabric by fusing the fleece to the wrong side. I've got my ribbon inserted, and I've gone ahead and selected, again, that same serpentine stitch that I talked about. Why do I love that stitch so much? Well, I can alter the width and I can alter the length. So I've made that width, let me turn on the camera, and you can see I've made that width to coordinate very perfectly with the width of my ribbon. Lengthen the stitch a little bit, and now it's a simple matter of the ribbon being guided right through that foot. Again, normally we would use that foot for bias binding. Why not try it for something different? And insert that ribbon. It creates a channel, so that groove is going to keep that ribbon flowing nice and straight and even. Look at that beautiful, beautiful technique. You could do straight lines, you could do angled lines, you know, from corner to corner. Just be careful with curves. If you are going to use curves, you're going to need a bias cut on your fabric. Okay, so let's take this one out of the machine. I'm going to show you some piping tricks next. So we're going to switch over to a different foot. Okay, so I've changed the foot, and I'm just about ready to sew the piping here, but let me talk just a little bit about this. Piping you can make your own, but very often you'll find gorgeous decorator piping. So this is my first tip for you. When you start at the center of the bottom so that you can just literally crisscross that piping and you don't have to worry about joining it. All right, for sewing the corners, you want to always make sure that you give yourself a little bit extra. If you can see, that looks a little bit loose there. You want it that way because you want a little extra around the corner so that when you stitch it and you flip it out, you're going from a smaller area to a larger area. So I have switched to an adjustable zipper foot, and that's how I get my piping stitched. So the first time around, we're just going to do a little bit further away from the piping edge. Regular normal straight stitch. And you know, you may want to even hand baste this in place. If you feel that you're going to get a little bit more control, especially around those corners, that's a really, really good idea. You know, there's a time and a place to baste, and sometimes it makes your life easier. So watch how I'm just easing around those corners. Okay. And I got a little bit of excess there, but that's okay. We can adjust for that later. Okay. So we'll go around that corner. I'll stop that and show you that. Okay, and I just want to show you how nice and neatly that corner would curve. So my next step, I'm not going to do it, but I would show you, we would take and we would sandwich those two layers and then stitch closer by moving that foot a little bit closer to the piping so we have a nice clean finish like you see on that tan pillow. And then take a look at that and you'll also see, you know, you've got the ability to sew piping in at the seam. So I've shared a lot of different techniques here, used some trims, so I hope you'll enjoy using these to make your own beautiful pillow parade.